Hello, I'm Julie Kay, Thrive Coach Julie Kay, helping you find your way through grief and loss. If you want that help and need that help, this is my series on emotions. So it's been a journey for me too, and I'm actually on my 7th video on my YouTube channel, Julie Kay Kettles, Kettles. So even if you just put in Julie Kettles, which if you know me, you know that's my name. A lot of people know me for doing sign language and music because I love worshiping with my hands. But I am a life coach, and because of the loss of my daughter Heidi in 2020, our daughter, my husband and I's, and then having to let go of her kids, our grandkids, to be adopted out, and that whole process was very huge. So through that, I was already a life coach, but I really have, that's my aim, is to specialize in grief and loss, put it that way. Hi, Don. So not claiming to be an expert, but I have been learning ever since. The Holy Spirit has taught me a lot, and then I've had a lot of confirmation through different experts like Gary Rowe, R-O-E, and Dr. Ellen Wolfelt, and then also been reading this book, I don't have it in front of me, by Gina Moffa, and it's been really good, talks a lot about feelings and emotions. So I'm learning as I go with you all. The part that I'm getting ready to move into in this series next is more of the maybe practical things, or the things, our environment, or who's around us, what do we need around us, people or environment? What do we need around us to be able to get the emotions out and respect them, as one of my videos is called, how to respect your emotions, and how to, but first it takes accepting them and allowing them even to be there and come up. So then it's a matter of processing them. What do we do with them? So the beginning of my series was, what do they do for us? And actually, emotions do serve a purpose. So I may talk a little bit about that, but the second part has been, what do we do with them? And I'm laying a lot of groundwork on that in just my own way. If you have any input into any of this, feel free to PM me or comment here. But have you found help with your painful emotions? Do you have painful emotions? And what are you doing with them? Do you value your emotions? Do you see your emotions as part of your makeup, a part of your God-given, fearfully and wonderfully made makeup? So a couple of my videos have hit on that, how God created emotions and God has emotions. So I have an individual video on how God has emotions. Today I basically made a video that has 4 different scriptures in it, actually 5 I mentioned, but 4 different passages, and really gets into, it really can go really deep, and it is deep because God's love is deep. God is not only loving, he is love. So that's one of the scriptures. 1 John 4 verse 8 and verse 16 refers to how God is love. And then I touched today, and it's coming to my mind right now, because on these I just basically want to let y'all know about the series and then talk about different parts of it so that you're aware of it, and that I have a YouTube channel. And so basically, one of the sayings, who knows who it came from, is that those who love much grieve much. Or you could say, if you're grieving a whole lot for your loved one or whoever it is that died, it's because you loved them much, or they loved you a lot. It's even harder because we miss those who are good to us. And then there's a different dynamic with those relationships with people who we lost, and it's still a life-changing loss, but we didn't have a great relationship with them. I love my daughter Heidi, and we were beginning to have a better relationship, but we didn't have the grace relationship. So we grieve much because we love much. So that, to me, that phrase is definitely true. And what it does for me is put a more positive light on grief, because grief is not always thought is positive at all. But it shows that it's because of love and because we miss them and so forth. So whether it's somebody that's alive, like an estrangement from your grandchildren, or a divorce that you didn't want, your friend moved across the country and it's not the same. Any of these things can be lost, and way more than this. But if it's deep, it's probably because you have a lot of love, and they hopefully had a lot of love for you. So with that said, my series kind of starts at the baseline of talking about what emotions do for us, and that God did make them, and they're part of our being. God is 3 in 1. We are 3 in 1. We are mind, body, soul, and spirit. And then in our soul is 3 parts: mind, will, and emotions. That's the way I was taught. And so with that, emotions are a third of our soul, right? So we know we have lots of thoughts, and our thoughts are not all good or pure, but God gave us thoughts. He gave us a mind, right? And we have a will, we make decisions, we make choices, we choose our attitude, our motives, all that. That is still God-given. That doesn't mean that it's always pure and right. But same with our emotions. Our emotions really, what we do with our emotions is a different story. So I'm not talking about that. But our emotions themselves really are not usually right or wrong. It's what we do with them, and but really it shows the symptoms of things, and a lot of times what we're passionate about. So I've touched on that in my videos. I don't want to sound too repetitious, but so really just, if we don't think something is good and valuable, we're not going to know how to handle it, right? So establishing that our emotions are a part of how we're created, and they do have a good purpose. That's been a lesson for me to see it that way. So I would go back to one of the first videos in the series, which, by the way, the playlist link will be in the description of this video, as it has been with all the other ones and the other lives you can see on my channel, on my page as well right now, so that you can go back and watch each one of them, because I'm really breaking it down quite in depth. And again, I'm learning along with y'all. I felt that God moved me to do this series, and it's really establishing that emotions are a very big part of our memories, and therefore our heart that aches for somebody that we love, that for whatever reason we are not united with, or they're gone from this earth. And so our thoughts and emotions both, play into that. And so I'm really just trying to give emotions the honor that they are due, and show that there's value to them, and that God created them, and establish that part. Because if you're a believer in the Lord or Jesus, or you're a Jewish believer and we both believe in the same God, right? Or anything like that, that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. We didn't just go poof and we're here. There's no way. We're too intelligent. Our bodies are amazing. The way we think, what we can create as people is amazing. I didn't plan on getting into this, but, I've been a mother 4 times, and that's amazing that, a baby can grow in my belly. And I know that God has his hand in that, and it's just amazing. So I totally attribute that to a creator. Do you? So with that, I really walk through again what emotions do for us, and some of those different things. Like I said, one of the things is they can show us what matters to us, what we're passionate about, right? Sometimes that comes up as anger. That's true. Or excitement, or whatever it is. Whatever emotion it is, it can show what matters to us. It can show wounds. And, we may not like that, just like we don't like physical wounds, but there is a purpose for that, and it can help us if we listen to them. Okay? What emotions are you experiencing right now, those of you who are on here or watching later? I love comments, so feel free to comment about anything that I'm saying. And if you're struggling with certain emotions right now, or you did in the past, maybe what helped you. And because they are an important part of us, and they're very much attached with our thoughts, right? And we need to work on our mental health. I believe fully that we can work on our thinking. We can have more positive or more healthy thinking. We can choose more of our thinking. We can work on it. Again, it's not a snap of a finger thing we can do, right? We don't just change overnight per se. But I have done certain things over the years to help my mind to become healthier and less negative and less going to things that that drag me down or distract me or upset me. And I still got to go back to the methods I've learned. I need to remember what they are. But that's one of the things I teach as a life coach. And I love declarations. I love declaring truth over myself, who I am. Some are made kind of as goals for my future, but really I take them mostly from the Word of God and in my identity in Him. And that just builds me up and strengthens me. And it's part of what helps me to be able to be a teacher of of these things and also a life coach. If I wasn't doing that, I wouldn't be ready to coach and help others. And I also do grief support ministry and have a grief support group. Talked about that on other lives, but if you're interested, let me know. We have one every Monday night year round at our church, and I'm not always the leader, but I oversee it and I can definitely inform you about it. So I also offer my YouTube channel, and then I offer a free consult if you want to do one-on-one with no obligation to go further. But if you do, it really, that hour that we spend together, whole hour for free, yes, a whole hour for free, really helps me know what the problem is and where you want to go in life, and then helps us both to decide if we want to work together and if that will work. So I do it out of my home and I do it online. So those are the three different areas that I help. And but if you know somebody who's grieving, I will, and they want a phone call, I'll call them, I'll listen, pray with them if they want to pray, come visit them if that's possible, and assist them. There's a man that I was given his number, his wife died, and it ends up that he has a bunch of her clothes and he wanted to bless them somewhere, and I said I'd be happy to bring them to the church. So sometimes I do very practical things for people, but I do this all because when my daughter died, it was during COVID. So do you think I got much support? Do you think we got much support? No. I knew there was people praying, and I believe in the power of prayer, and I could feel that. And I had an element of God's peace during that. But a lot of it's the things I learned is what I teach in my coaching, and I have videos on all of that too. But bottom line, we didn't get a lot of people support, and like even cards now, or even a text, how you doing, or anything, barely got any of that. And so instead of me wallowing in that, I said, I want to become that for other people. And I know I couldn't save the world. I couldn't help the world. I couldn't help everybody. But I said, I want to be that. And that decision to do that is definitely part of what helps me to thrive and not just survive. And it's been part of my healing journey. I'm a teacher, so it's caused me to have to learn things. And then therefore I've learned it for myself more. And, it's given me purpose. Having purpose is so important. So these are just all things, a little bit about my journey that you can see more in depth on my channel, Julie Kay Kettles, or just Julie Kettles, like a teapot. It so easily comes out as Cuddles, and I don't mean for it to sound like Cuddles. So, but like a teapot, or Kettles chips, or mom pa for the older generation. So you can check out my channel, and if you want to put in, if you want to see the emotion series, just put in emotions and they'll come up, the videos will come up. I also have a playlist that will be in this description, as well as the link to the channel. So I just want more people to know that I have a channel. I've been faithfully uploading, more than one video a week, like 2, not a ton, like a lot of people. One I call message video a week. And yes, I've done different series because I realize that a lot of times what I'm sharing is very drawn out and I don't want the videos too long. So I end up doing a series. And so I have a series on hope in my channel. I need to create more playlists for those. So if you're interested in one of these that I'm saying, let me know. You'll push me to make that into a playlist. But the emotion series is already in a playlist. Series on hope, a series on circle of control, a series on the certain way of journaling that I teach, and more than that. Those are just some of the ones that are coming off the top of my head. So with that, getting back to the emotions, I realized that's a big part. People coming to a support group, we never tell people they have to share. And I ask questions, but we say that's just food for thought. You don't have to answer the questions. No pressure. You can just come here and not saying anything until you're ready or if you're ever ready. So we established that as our guidelines there. But many times people have told later that they came not planning to say anything, and then they just end up opening up. Sometimes they cry the most that first week, and that's emotions coming out. So of course they have thoughts, they have words, right? Or maybe they're not ready to say the words, but they are crying in there. They are ready to express their emotions a little bit, but they're not ready to talk. But the thoughts and the feelings go hand in hand, right? Let's be real about it. So that is just what I'm trying to give more honor and more recognition to our actual emotions. And so if we realize they're God-given and they're good and they're not bad and there's no right or wrong, and, we can even learn from them. And then what would we do without emotions? I talked about that a couple weeks ago. If we were getting together in a football game, can you imagine a football game without emotions? I use that as an example. I don't it's too much emotions going on, too much loudness for me. It's not my cup of tea. But I can go to my church that's loud to a lot of people and has long worship. I love it. And that I can handle. I love that, and there's nights that maybe I don't feel good physically, or that I do need to just be quiet, and maybe it's not. But in general, we all can handle different things like that, right? Concerts, loud concerts. I'm not always big about concerts. I love music. So, we're all different, right? But what would we do without the emotions behind that? It would be so boring. And it wouldn't bring us together, and we'd be like robots, like I've said. So maybe that helps you to kind of see, oh yeah, that's true. There is a place for emotions, right? So, so to touch on a couple of the other ones, like one of the videos, I really talk about how important it is to accept our emotions and allow them and allow them to come up. And then this past week, and I did touch on this last week, another one is that I talked about why do we fight emotions? Because I think that's really important to recognize reasons why you fight your emotions, because of your upbringing or whatever it is. So I talk about that in depth on one of the videos. And I think that's really important. And I give different ones from Gina's book and some of mine that I thought of, and just makes you think, that one, yeah, that's me. Or, and it kind of helps you go, yeah, that did give me it makes me think I shouldn't share my emotions, or I'm not allowed to, or that nobody can handle them, or whatever. So I talk about that, and then give a list of emotions, and that can be helpful. So we think of others besides just sadness, anger, anxiety, happiness. I mean, those are some, depression. There's way more than that, right? But those are some of them, so that we can kind of get ourselves thinking of what emotions am I having? I don't always know. So then I talk about God having emotions, and then also, yeah, and then, like I said, the one that will be coming out probably on Sunday, the video, is 4 different passages about how God is near. I'm going to read them, just the actual verses briefly to you, so you know the verses that I hit on, but I go in depth on the verbs and some of the words that come from the original, so you see really what it's saying. And it's very exciting to me. I love that kind of breaking down the word. So Psalm 34:18, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. 1 John 4:8 and 16, God is love. Already talked about that. Isaiah 30, verse 18, Therefore, the Lord longs to be gracious to you. He waits on high to have compassion for you. For the Lord is a God of justice, and how blessed or happy are those who long for him. Okay, and then another one is Psalm 62. Hi, Angela. So these are verses that I'm going over in my video I just made today that will be coming out on Sunday on my channel, Julie Kettles, or Julie Kay Kettles. It's my full YouTube channel name. And I have this whole series on emotions. So here's 2 more verses that I have on the video that's coming out Sunday. Psalm 62, verse 8. Pour out your heart before him. Pour out your heart before him, King David said. God is a God of refuge for us. King David must have done that, and he must have really trusted God, because he said God is a refuge. And if some place is a refuge, or a person is a refuge or a safe place, then you can trust them. And that's what he said about God. He told us to pour out our hearts before God. Interesting. That seems to talk about pour out thoughts, yes, but pour out emotions too. And that God can handle it, and he definitely can handle it. He can more than handle it. He's fully there to help us, and that's what I talk about on that specific one from my emotion series that I'm going to be putting out soon. And then the last passage that is so powerful, that is really prophecy about Jesus and what he went through and what he was going to go through from the Old Testament forward, is Isaiah 53, verses 3 and 4. And part of what it says is that he was rejected and despised by men. He was a man of sorrows, and he was acquainted with grief. And then it says, surely he carried our sorrows, our infirmities. Surely he carried and bore our infirmities, and surely he took up our sorrows. The very 2 words that you heard me say in both of those verses, what he experienced and what he helps us with, to say the least, helps us with, is way bigger than that, is grief. Grief of the soul and grief of the body. If you study the verse, and if you go to my channel and subscribe, which I would love for you to do, and hit the bell if you want to get all the uploads and see them. Again, you don't have to listen to them anytime, or you always do it whenever you want to. If you do both of those 2 things, and you'll see when the Sunday one is, do it tonight. I'm actually trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm almost to 900. So if you want to help support what I'm doing with the coaching and the helping and the grief ministry and the grief support all around that I'm doing, which I mentioned on this video. If you're coming on later, you can re-listen some of the different things that I'm doing for the community and offer. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But it shows that Jesus experienced grief in his body and in his soul, or his heart, and that he helps us with the same thing. He helps us with the grief in our soul, and he helps us with the grief in our body. He helps us with the grief in our heart emotionally, and in our body. And our bodies, if you haven't heard me say this, or you haven't heard this, I always have to say this if it comes up. If you have had a life-changing loss that's just changed your life in ways, all different degrees of how it affects all of us, right? But if you've experienced that, then it is affecting your physical health, some way, shape, or form. Hopefully, it's not a condition of yours that gets worse, but that very often happens. I was gluten-free, and I ended up having to become grain-free. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't want to get into that big time. But another thing that is more obvious for me is I didn't have allergies before that. I had a weakened, compromised immune system. I have for many, many years due to many antibiotics growing up and other things. But I never had allergies until after Heidi died. In fact, I'm finally going to get allergy testing done because I really want to know what it is I'm allergic to. so that I can do what I can to help it, right? Doesn't mean we can solve it all. But those are just a couple examples of what happened in my health. But it will affect your body. Foggy thinking is very common. I'm just going to say a few, and I have videos on this too. Foggy thinking, tiredness. You just don't have the energy you used to have. Can't accomplish as much as you used to have. Forget things more. More emotional. There's just many ways that it hits our body. We can even have more pain, literally, or inflammation or anything. There's all kinds of things. But our emotions, our heart, our mind, and what we do definitely affects our body. So it's really in that verse that it becomes more evident about that fact, because Jesus experienced it in both his soul and in his body, even though his spirit was perfect without sin and absolutely connected with God the Father. He still had a body. And so he experienced a lot of what we go through, and he does understand. I truly believe he understands. And then he helps us. More than helps. Okay. He wants to heal us, and he wants to take it so that it doesn't stay with us forever. The memory of our loved one will stay forever. We will always be dealing with loving them and missing them and thinking about them. That's a given. That's a given. But the heartache and the excruciating pain and sorrow and depression and so on and so forth can go eventually. Thank you, Jesus. And especially he can help us with that. So that's the short form of me sharing that today. But again, please subscribe if you're willing to, if you haven't already. Julie Kay Kettles, Kettles, just like a teapot, or Kettles chips. And subscribe and hit the bell if you're willing to as well, so that you can see my uploads. And again, help me out, get to 1,000 and check it out. And like I always say, you don't have to be staring at me by any means. You can just listen to them while you're driving or doing something else. And I'm also, moving towards one day maybe being able to, really let the channel expand so that finances come in and help the ministry and help more people and help me to keep doing these videos, because it does take time and effort and devotion to do this. But I love it. I'm a teacher. I love the Word of God. I love helping people. It's a weird thing, but I do not mind talking about grief, because it's the calling and passion he's put in me. If you look up Gary Rowe, he's another person that is a wonderful man of God who loves the Word of God, and he's all about helping people with grief. It's one of his books called Soul Cry. Gary Rowe. Well, that's backwards, I guess, for you guys. But anyway, all right. So we're signing off for now. It's for tonight. If y'all have any questions, always feel free to ask me, PM me on Messenger. I'm on Messenger, Julie Kettles again. And reach out if you know somebody who's hurting and you want to connect them with me to have a free consult for a whole hour with me. No obligation. I never push people. I always give at least one tip, suggestion for them. You can just tell me you want that link, and you can give that to that person and they can set it up with me, or we can connect with phone numbers. I give my phone number out too. So we can connect with that. And, this is part of what God's called me to do. All right, is to help people one-on-one, help people through the channel, and also with the support group. So thank you all for joining me. Please share the video out, and God bless you. Bye-bye.